Live to the Moscow region, where President Vladimir Putin is making a statement on the crisis in Ukraine. Let's now listen in.
Yes, please.
Mr. Putin, I would like to ask, I'm from Interfax, because we waited for quite a while, so we accumulated a lot of questions. How do you assess the events in Kyiv? Do you believe that the government or the president pro tem are legitimate? At what conditions are you willing to support them and to maintain contacts with them? And do you believe it's possible to go back to the agreements of February 21, which we mention quite often here? Itartas, hold on a second. Russia promised financial support to Crimea. Yesterday, an instruction was given to the Ministry of Finance. Is there an understanding of how much we will give, from what source, at what conditions, and when this help will be provided, as the situation there is quite complicated? Hold on a second. Just wait a while.
Okay, don't hurry. I need to write it down.
When and under what conditions, I'm from Interfax, and in what amount, at what numbers will the military force used in Ukraine, and how does it match the international agreements with Russia? And the military exercises that just took place, are they in any way related to the possible use of military force? I would like to ask about Crimea. In your opinion, are they still provoking? Are there still any threats for the Russian citizens in the Crimea and Russian-speaking citizens? And is it developing towards the better, towards the worse? Because we've been hearing different opinions. Reuters, if you make a decision to bring in the forces, did you calculate the possible threats for yourself and for the country, such as economic sanctions and the global security and possible visa bans, or a wider isolation of Russia, which the Western politicians have been expressing, have been voicing? Please do not hurry. Do not rush it. All right. Darius Stanislavets, Prime Agency, on the verge, the Federation Council decision to the historical minimum. Did you expect such a response, and what are the consequences for the economics? Are there any emergency measures required, and what kind of emergency measures are required? Also, do you believe that the central bank decision to the free ruble course was premature? Perhaps you need to cancel that decision or suspend it. What do you think?
Okay, I'll start to reply to these questions, and don't interrupt me. I'll try to reply as detailed as possible. Okay, so what is my assessment of what happened in Ukraine and Kyiv? So my assessment is that it's unconstitutional overthrow and an armed seizure of power. And no one has challenged that. Who's saying it's not true? But for me, there's a big question, and neither I nor my colleagues can reply to it. And you know, I've been discussing the Ukrainian crisis over the phone with a lot of our Western partners. Why has this been done? President Yanukovych, with the mediation of 3 foreign ministers of European countries, Poland, Germany, and France, in the presence of my representative, and it was our human rights ombudsman, Vladimir Lukin, they all signed between the opposition and the President Yanukovych signed the crisis settlement agreement, according to which, whether it's good or bad, I'm just giving you the facts. Mr. Yanukovych has almost lost all of his power. agreed to almost anything what the opposition wanted. He agreed to early parliamentary election, to early presidential election. He agreed to return to the 2004 constitution, and he responded both to our proposal and to the proposal of Western countries positively. He said he would not use force. You know, he never issued any command to shoot at the protesters. There was no such order, and he also ordered to pull out all of the interior troops, all of the police troops out of the capital. He went to a conference in the city of Kharkiv, and as soon as he left Kharkiv, the power was seized. Instead of unblocking some of the buildings that were seized, they've seized the administrative building and his residence. So why was that done? You know, he's given away all of his power. I told him he had no chance of re-election, and everyone agreed. All of my partners, all of my counterparts I talked to over the phone agreed with that. So why did you need to engage in those unconstitutional activities? Why do you need to plunge the country into the chaos it's still facing? And there is still some radical extremisms masked and armed on the streets of Kiev. So do they want to show their power, show their force, to undermine someone's dignity? These were silly actions, and it fired back. These steps led to the escalation of tension in the east of Ukraine. Now, to why it all happened, I believe it's a revolutionary situation, and I think the root cause goes back to the early days of Ukrainian statehood. Ordinary Ukrainian always suffered when we had Tsar Nicholas, when we had Mr. Kravchuk as president, and Kuchma and Yanukovych. And nothing has really happened. Corruption has now grown to such an extent, you know. Even here in Russia, even for Russia, it's unprecedented. The gap between the rich and the poor has widened. We do have the same problems, and they are relevant here, but it's even, you know, these problems have gone on to an unprecedented scale in Ukraine. Of course, people wanted change, but it cannot encourage illegal change. On the post-Soviet space, where you have fragile political arrangements, where